this is something I'm definitely interested to hear what y'all takes are. Throughout as I've gotten a little older, I will admit I think there was a time where I had somewhat of a notion that like all college experiences are the same, and they're not obviously, but just in the sense that like some people have an incredibly easy time throughout college due to the major that they pick or the courses that they take. But I started to realize that while there are some majors that are just going to be inherently more difficult due to the nature of it, your medical professions, your advanced law degrees, your engineering degrees, I think you could make the case that college and higher education is just an inherently difficult road to partake. And yeah, I think one of the reasons because like no matter what your major is or what program you're in, you still are forced for whatever reason to take classes that are not directly going to be tied to what you will be working on in your actual future. Basically, you're learning something that has nothing to do with the price rights, what you actually want to do. But whether it's even if it is something adjacent or if it's something that is required for your actual profession, I think it would be worth asking not age old question, but one of the age old questions of what was the hardest class you took in college? So yeah, I'm relatively interested to hear what y'all think. We'll start off with you, Ace. You started school way before us. No, I'm just joking. But before us.
Um, so I had an answer for this. I saw this question last week, and I had an answer, and pretty much right before the podcast started, I realized my answer was incorrect, and it was a much better answer that I've been saying for years. And it is for me, the class was probability and statistics. Um,
Odds and stats. And what made it the hard class that you would say?
I would say that most classes that are based in like math, even if they were hard for me, they at least felt intuitive. Like it would take a lot of thinking to be able to retain concepts, but everything felt like it kind of it was intuitive where you would learn something and it kind of meshed with what you understood before and you just build on top of these ideas. And problem stats for me, it never felt that way. I often say it's fake math to me because like it felt like you would learn something and then like you'd learn something else kind of out of nowhere and it'd be like this is how you calculate the probability of this, but then for like a dice roll and then a deck of cards or something else, and it never really clicked. And then statistics, it was like you have these different ways to look at the statistics of a particular thing. You have the bell curve and different
Yeah.
curves and the z bar and things like that. And it's just a bunch of ideas that you get a bunch of new concepts you have to learn, but yeah, they never meshed. And I couldn't just use my intuition on the problems. It truly had to be me kind of just memorizing equations or formulas in order to perform calculations. And then a lot of the problems that you do in these types of these type of classes are word problems, so you have to have a good understanding of how to apply those formulas to word problems. If you don't have that, like, it just makes it extremely difficult. So that was always the problem for me with that class. And yeah, like, I don't even know if it was necessarily the hardest. It was just I like there was just stuff I did not grasp. I didn't really retain it afterward. So yeah, I would put that one up there for me.
Got you, got you. And is there anything that you could say, or maybe even like a warning or like a piece of advice you could give to somebody if they were about to take that class?
Um, I would say, I mean, one thing I have realized is how important it has been, regardless of the fact that I didn't have a good grasp on it. I feel like I should have tried harder because like my field, I'm in the civil engineering field, and I didn't really think that probability and statistics would really apply. But then you get into the aspect of engineering where you can't design for literally every situation. There's always going to be there's always going to be a probability that what do they call it, like a once in 100 year
Yep.
event will occur, and that are you going to design for that event for every structure you design, or can you design for like a 50-year event, a 50-year storm, or something like that? So probability and statistics becomes a very important thing in that way, and I wouldn't be surprised if it applies to a lot of fields as well. So even though I had a lot of trouble with it, I I feel like I should have stuck with it and tried to retain what I learned, and tried to continue maybe to shore up on those concepts, so that for my my field, I would have a better grasp of how some of these different design paradigms of come out of those probability and statistics. So yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's important, you you might want to keep a kind of try to keep an open mind about it, and truly try to grasp it if you can. But,
I see what you're saying, because for a lot of people, once they learn something in the class, they basically throw it out once they stop using that book. But there are a lot of principles of problem stats that probably would benefit a person long term to retain, or just try to every now and again brush up on. I see what you're saying.
mhm.
Fair enough. I guess just for sake of sake, what was your going to be your alternative answer, or I guess your second place?
Fluid mechanics.
Uh, Yikes. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. What about you, Ghost? What would you say is the hardest class you ever took while you were in college? And what made it
Um,
so hard or challenging?
I kind of have a few different answers.
Okay.
I won't be too long about this, but the first answer that was not major related, I'm also a civil engineer, would be
Oh yeah, we probably should have said our majors in the beginning. Maybe that would be more context.
yeah,
For those who wonder, Ace is a civil engineer, as was Ghost, and I have two majors, but I just typically represent. I was in electrical engineering. Go ahead, Ace. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ghost.
yeah. So Cal wasn't so yeah, chemistry, Chem 2 specifically. For some reason, I don't know why it was. I think I failed it once, or I failed it once, and I got very close to failing it again. And
Damn.
that one was uniquely challenging because a lot of the concepts I feel like I got, but then some of it was just there came a point where it was like I didn't understand a lot of the stuff, and I felt like I should be doing better than I actually ended up doing in the course. So that was frustrating, and I despise chemistry regardless, so that just added on to it. Uh, the hardest class, hardest regular class because of the actual classwork or coursework for me would be what was I gonna say? Oh my god, differential equations.
Damn.
I was,
You low key stealing my answers.
bro, I was so bad. I failed DiffyQ twice and I almost failed it 3 times. It was that's I despised it, and the teacher before it wasn't good, but even outside of that, it was
Damn. I think we might
like
have the damn same experience.
like a lot of the stuff like you talk about how stats is fake math. Like compared to fucking DiffyQ, stats makes so much sense because DiffyQ it's a garbage course. I hate it. And
So
that one, like stats I use that constantly. I still use it in my field, but DiffyQ I never used it once. I never will use it. Hate that fucking class. Um, yeah, and then the last kind of cheating answer. Uh, I had well, I think I also had a fluix mechanic class, but the reason why it was challenging wasn't because of the actual coursework. It was because of uh the partner I had in the group project.
Oh
One of
shit!
the partners is cool, but I've told you all
I
about this
think we
before.
might have heard these stories.
Yeah, this
I
was
bet.
years ago. This might have been one of the first podcast episodes actually, but Alex.
All right. Well, I can't let Sauce. I mean, I know you're just saying the first name, but
Yeah, I'm
let's.
not. I really want to dox his last name too, but to keep it brief, he was the worst lab partner ever, and he made things so difficult, especially because we were supposed to have 4 people, but our group had 3 just because it was. I think we didn't have enough people in the class, so essentially it was me and the other dude doing the work of 4 people because Alex was fucking useless.
Jesus.
So yeah, that made it very challenging, and I won't get into the whole debacle of everything that happened, but I will say that I got a little bit of revenge because a couple years after I graduated and I'm working at my company, he applied and they asked me, "Hey, this kid went to UMass Dartmouth. Do you know him?" Oh shit, I just doxed my college. Who
All
cares?
type of doxing.
Who
That's fine.
cares, bro?
I
Who
think
cares?
I think it's relatively common for people to say what school they went to. I don't think that's any problem.
Yeah, so you said, "Oh, this kid went to the school you did. Hey, did you know him?" And the second I saw his name, I just burst out laughing. I was like, "Do not hire this dude. He's the worst. He'll be the absolute worst ad you could possibly bring to this company." So yeah, he did not get the job, and don't have to deal with us anymore. So yeah,
Damn.
that's my 3 answers. A little bit of variety, but
Dang.
Real
Kind
quick,
of.
I kind of want to refute the Diffie Qs. I actually loved that class.
bro, you was well.
Bro,
I don't want to say
you
I
would have
love
to refute
stats,
it.
but I really enjoy
You would have to
stats.
refute it to.
So,
It would be 2v1 because difficult is one of my answers too.
bro, Diffie Q is garbage, bro. Well,
Differential
I don't know what
Diffie
you're
was
equations.
talking
amazing
about.
The
too,
reason
and
why
it,
I would say it was one of my most difficult courses is because it's like it really is a culmination of stuff that you learn, but it's not like you can just put that 1 plus 2 equals 3. It morphs it and distorts it in a way where like I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. It's like
Bro,
when I was in Calc 1, I was able to bang that out. When I was in Calc 2, it got challenging, but I was still able to get through it. And then I get to DVQ and they say, okay, so you're gonna take what you learned in those classes and we're gonna apply it,
yep,
and I just instantly get brain blasted, like,
yep.
bro. And then on top of that, similar to what you were saying, Ghost, I had the worst. Like one day I'm gonna come on here and start giving them
accurate
some of
professor.
my past. I had the worst professor ever, to the point where like I just one day I just genuinely was like, all right, I'm really not doing so well in this. Can you just help me? Or can you just please help me? The way he just looked in my face and said, "Sorry, dog, I can't help you." I just need a smidgen of help.
Cold
And
world. Oh my
he literally
god.
said, he literally, I'm like, this is no joking. He says, "I can't help you. Get out of my office." Like verbatim.
Dang, no, no, no.
Nah, he had to be he had to be racist or
Yeah,
something because that's crazy.
And it's
yeah.
That's
like,
nuts.
back then, when I still have it, but still had like that little bit of like hood in me. I was like I'm in school, but like, is he like this guy want to fight? Like I was so confused. And to even further articulate this, and this is kind of reference only maybe so few people get, but on the Pimper Butterfly, if you know the record, you where in the beginning Kendrick is yelling. I think that's the name of the record. Go check that up to see if I'm right. But there was one time I was taking a test, and of course when you're taking a test, everyone's just quiet, and I literally felt like in the middle of class just bursting out yelling. Like I was
Yo,
literally going insane. I just had to yell. Yeah, it is you because he's
that's
like love
crazy.
because loving you is complicated. Yeah, that was the one of the most challenging class ever. That is difficult on so many levels. The only thing I can even begin to recommend is, and this is actually applicable. This is actually gonna be one of the more stories. College, like a lot of other elements in life, is not something you should. I mean, unless you're Einstein, Isaac Newton, genius level, you should not approach it as like this is going to be a solo dolo mission. Get yourself somebody else that's in the class. Every homework assignment work on together. Every project work on together. Study together. Like put one and two together, and use a couple minds so you can get through this. If you like me and just you're sitting in the math lab or the computer lab, looking at the assignment, looking at the problem, and it's hours going by, and the project ain't moving nowhere, or the assignment ain't moving nowhere. It's not going to work out for you. That's definitely a class, or an example of a class where I would recommend you definitely find some other students and you work together on that. But yeah, I don't want to get into a rant back too much. But I was going to say, similar to you, Ghost. I guess we've had some existence. Chemistry was also an incredibly difficult course for me, because like I think you mentioned this. It's like some of the concepts, like I mean, like understanding an atom or understanding molecules. It starts off like that, and then it just
Yeah.
quickly ramps up, and by the time you get to like combining different elements and like it blows it out the water for me.
Yeah, like at a base level, it kind of makes sense, but then they get into the valence electron clouds and SP.
Yep, SP
Bro, oh
orbitals.
my god, they changed the structure of an atom, and they made it so much more difficult. Than oh my
Yeah,
god,
that chemistry definitely
I
has
think
a lot of
I
difficulty.
I would venture to say the reason we had so much trouble with chemistry is because, like with physics, you start at a very basic level, but you build up you build up very methodically and slowly, and like you go from the basic kinematics to dynamics, and but everything comes like it all comes in a very sequential way. Even when they introduce electricity, it's still very sequential. With chemistry, it's kind of like you're just jumping from idea to idea, and you're getting like a high level overview of how to do certain things, like with those valence electrons and stuff. But I almost feel like there's stuff in between that they don't teach because of maybe it requires like higher level math or something like that. But
yeah,
it doesn't feel like as smooth of a transition between the concepts. So I think
yeah, it
that's what I had
feels
trouble with it too. So
yeah, all it feels just all independent. Plus, we had those stupid chemistry labs where it would be like completely unrelated to what we actually learned in the classes. Like,
titration.
yep, titrate. Like, they didn't teach us about that shit. They taught us about that shit in the lab, and then we went back to learn about electrons in the class.
Yeah.
Like, fuck out of here.
I'm not gonna lie. The lab was the low key fun part. You actually get
The
put
lab was fine,
science
but
to
Well,
it
beaker.
didn't help with the class.
Yeah, I just did the instructions. Like I didn't really know
Yeah,
what
exactly. It was usually just like they hand you instructions. You collab with your partners and try to get the intended result.
Yeah. But yeah, Ghost is right. Like, did it really relate to the stuff we were learning in
It
class
never, it
half
never
the
But
time?
I'm just saying it wasn't bad. It was a breakaway from the. It should have been an easy, well, relatively
You should
easy
have had
A.
only labs instead of doing the fucking classwork. I've been straight with
That would
that.
have been the stress, especially if you're not, in a chemistry based major. And now, the last thing I was going to say regarding chemistry, I will say it definitely gives me a lot of not appreciation. I give a lot of salute to people that are in like more biomedical
Yeah.
Bro, like
majors. I remember
organic
one,
chemistry.
yeah. I remember one time I was just like in a study room with these biomed majors, or this was something. And they were talking about like how do you like identify a cancer cell and like what happens when you notice it start to modulate or something. It just was a completely above my pay grade. So I definitely respect those brothers and sisters. Yeah, yeah. Ultimately speaking, like I said in the beginning, college, higher education, university, depending on where you are, is typically no joke, and that's why I would say it does take a decent amount of discipline to actually make it through it. Especially, and we could spend an entire podcast talking about college, but especially when you do have times where you're low key facing failure of a class, or maybe you do fail a class, and then like how do you like get yourself in the mindset where you keep pushing forward? Because a lot of people, when they do get to that point, they're like, all right, college just ain't for me, and they take another route, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, there's a lot of aspects of it, but also it ultimately does take discipline, and it does take a certain level of I'm gonna finish this no matter what by any means necessary, and that's why you gotta give salute to everybody that goes that route. Some level salute, because some people do some relatively foolish majors. No offense, but all things considered, it is a difficult road. So we definitely acknowledge that here. And if anyone, not yeah, in I guess you gotta do the YouTube type of thing. If anyone, for all of our college listeners or postgrad college, whatever you call it, if you've been to college before, definitely put in the comments what your hardest class was while you were in school. I'd be definitely interested to know what people think. I think a lot of people will say math because math just seems like the highest technical level of work. But I don't know. I feel like if you're like in the engineering field, math is not necessarily the hardest thing. A lot of engineering majors tend to say like it's a writing class that's like the most difficult. But it just depends on your perspective, I suppose. All the same, there's a lot more to talk about. So if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.